My name is Persimmon Walsh, and I hired the woman who nearly killed my daughter. I say this bluntly because it's the truth, and because for 4 weeks I lived in constant terror that every time I walked out that door, every time I left her alone with my baby, it would be the last time I would see my daughter Clementine alive. 7 months ago, I returned to work after my maternity leave. Clementine was 3 years old, those beautiful and exhausting 3 years when they start talking in complete sentences and have opinions about everything. My husband Dashiell was constantly traveling for his consulting job. I was an architect at a firm that had just landed a major client. We needed the money. We needed someone. We needed Maria. I found her through a nanny agency in Portland, Oregon. Maria Cortez, 42 years old. Impeccable references, first aid certification, 10 years of experience caring for children. The agency showed me her portfolio, photos of her with smiling children, glowing letters of recommendation from previous families. And when I met her in person, I understood why families adored her. She had that instant maternal presence. Dark hair pulled back in a soft bun. Warm brown eyes. A smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. She wore a cream-colored cardigan sweater and jeans, and she brought a gift for Clementine, a handmade rag doll in a floral dress. "For your little girl," she said, her voice soft as honey. "I make dolls. It's my hobby." Clementine, who was normally shy with strangers, ran straight to Maria and accepted the doll with delight. "Mommy, look, it's just like me." And it was, strangely enough. The doll had curly blonde hair like Clementine, painted blue eyes, even a dress similar to my daughter's favorite. "I did a little research," Maria said, smiling. "I looked at photos on the family profile they sent me. I wanted it to be special. I was flattered. Touched. Such attention to detail. Such dedication even before getting the job. I hired her on the spot. For the first 2 weeks, Maria was perfect. She arrived at 8 o'clock every morning, always with that smile, always with that calm presence. Clementine adored her. I would come home from work and find my daughter happy, fed, bathed. The house was tidy. Maria had prepared food for us. "You don't have to do that," I would say. "I like to take care of things," she would reply. "It's what I do." Dashiell was impressed. "She's a gem," he would say. "We should give her a raise." And I agreed. I could finally concentrate on work without that constant anxiety about Clementine. I could finally breathe. Until the night I came home early. It was a Tuesday. I had left the office at 5 instead of 7 because a meeting had been canceled. I didn't tell Maria. Why should I? It was my house. I parked in the driveway, noticing that the lights downstairs were off. Strange. Maria usually had all the lights on at this hour, making dinner, playing with Clementine in the living room. I opened the front door quietly. The house was dark, silent. "Maria," I called. "Clementine." There was no answer. A touch of concern ran through me. I put down my bag and went upstairs, my footsteps soft on the carpet. Clementine's bedroom door was ajar. I could see dim light filtering out from inside. The moon-shaped nightlight we kept on. And I heard something. A voice. Humming. I approached the door, peering through the crack. Maria was sitting in the rocking chair next to the crib we no longer used because Clementine had moved on to a big girl bed, but which I had kept because it was beautiful, handmade by my father, rocking slowly. Her hand rested on the edge of the crib, gently pushing it back and forth even though it was obviously empty, and she was humming, a lullaby I didn't recognize, something in Spanish, the notes rising and falling in a hypnotic pattern, but her eyes, God, her eyes. They were open, fixed on the wall in front of her, but completely empty, as if she were looking through the wall, through the world, to some place I couldn't follow. And she kept rocking that empty cradle, rocking, humming. My skin instantly bristled. Every instinct in my body screamed that something was wrong, horribly, deeply wrong. Where was Clementine? I backed away quietly, my heart pounding so loudly that I was sure Maria would hear it. Cold sweat ran down my back as I moved down the hall toward the master bedroom. The door was closed. I opened it slowly. Clementine was in my bed, asleep, curled up with her new doll, safe, unharmed. Relief hit me so hard, I almost doubled over. She was okay. My baby was okay. But that meant Maria was downstairs in the nursery, rocking an empty crib, humming to no one, those dead eyes staring into space. I stood there, trembling, trying to decide what to do. Go downstairs and confront her, pretend I had just arrived, fire her on the spot. Finally, I clattered down the stairs, slamming the front door loudly as if I had just arrived. "Maria, I'm home." I heard rapid movement upstairs. Footsteps. By the time I reached the second floor, Maria was standing in the hallway, smiling that warm smile as if nothing had happened. "Oh, Mrs. Walsh, I wasn't expecting you so early." "Meeting canceled," I said, forcing my voice to sound casual. "How was your day?" "Wonderful. Clementine and I baked cookies. We played in the park. She was so tired she fell asleep early." Her smile never wavered. "I put her in her bed. I hoped she'd be okay. But she looked so comfortable." "That's okay," I said. "Thanks for taking care of her." "Of course. She's an angel." Something in her tone when she said that last word made me shudder. After Maria left, I checked Clementine obsessively. I counted her fingers and toes. I looked for any marks, anything out of place. Nothing. She was perfectly fine. Maybe Maria had just had a strange moment. We all have strange moments, right? Maybe she was tired. Maybe she had been up the night before. But I couldn't shake the image of those empty eyes, that empty crib being rocked, that unsettling song. The next morning, Maria arrived at exactly 8 o'clock, smiling, as always. She acted completely normal, and I acted normal too, kissing Clementine on the cheek, telling her to behave, trying to ignore the voice in my head screaming not to let her. That night, when I picked up Clementine, Maria always stayed until I got home. I noticed something while bathing my daughter. Bruises. Small circular ones on the upper part of both arms, like finger marks. "Clem, sweetie," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "How did you get these bruises?" "Bruises." She looked at her arms curiously. "Oh. From playing." "Playing what?" "The game of staying still. Maria says I have to practice staying very, very still, like a statue." My stomach sank. "And how do you play that game?" "She holds me here." Clementine touched her arms where the bruises were, and I stay still. And if I move, she squeezes. "But it doesn't bother me, Mommy. It's just a game." Just a game. Just a game where a grown woman grabbed my 3-year-old daughter hard enough to leave marks. I called Dashiell that night after Clementine fell asleep. He was in Chicago on a business trip. "There's something wrong with Maria," I said without preamble. "What do you mean?" I told him about the bruises, about the scene in the nursery, the empty crib, the dead eyes. There was a pause. "Honey, kids get bruises. They play hard. And as for the other thing, maybe she was just resting, meditating." "She wasn't meditating, Dash. I don't know what she was doing, but it wasn't normal." "Do you want to fire her?" That was the question, right? Did I want to fire her based on one strange moment and some bruises that Clementine said were from playing? What would I tell the agency? "Oh, I found her sitting in the dark, so I fired her." "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe I'm overreacting. Look, I'm back on Friday. I can take a few days off, stay with Clem, and you can interview new nannies if you want. But until then, maybe just keep a close eye on her. If anything else happens, anything concrete, fire her." It made sense. It was reasonable. But reason didn't take away the fear. The next day, I installed a nanny cam. A small one, hidden in a stuffed animal on the shelf in Clementine's room. I could see it from my phone, live video whenever I wanted. I felt guilty doing it, like I was being paranoid, invading Maria's privacy. But Clementine's bruises were still there, fading to greenish yellow, and I couldn't forget those eyes. For the first 2 days, I didn't see anything unusual on the camera. Maria played with Clementine. She read her books. She made snacks. Everything was normal. But on the 3rd day, I checked the camera during my lunch break. Maria was sitting on the floor with Clementine, playing with dolls. They had arranged several dolls in a circle, the rag doll Maria had made, plus a few of Clementine's. "This is your family," Maria was saying, her voice that soft sing-song tone. "Your doll mommy, your doll daddy, your doll sister." "I don't have a sister," Clementine said. "No, but you could have had one." Maria picked up one of the dolls, a small one with dark hair. "This could have been your sister. Wouldn't that have been nice?" "I guess." "My baby would have been your friend," Maria continued, her voice becoming softer, almost a whisper. "You are almost the same age, my Paloma. You would have played together." "Where's your baby?" Clementine asked with that direct curiosity of children. Maria didn't answer for a moment. Then, "She went to heaven." "Oh, like Timmy's little fish?" "Yes, like the fish." I stared at the screen, my lunch untouched in front of me, feeling sick. Maria had lost a daughter. Why hadn't the agency told me? Was it relevant? Maybe not. Many people lose loved ones and can still do their jobs. But something about the way she had said my Paloma, the way she had held that doll. That night, I Googled Maria Cortez Portland deceased child. The results froze me. There were articles, not many, but enough. 3 years earlier, Maria Cortez had been investigated for the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Paloma. The girl had been found drowned in the bathtub. Maria claimed she had left the room for a moment, just a moment, to answer the phone. The investigation had lasted months. There were suspicions, neighbors reporting that they had heard Maria and her husband fighting violently the night before, a previous report to child services about possible neglect, but ultimately no charges were filed. Accidental death, a tragedy. Maria's husband had left her 6 months later. There was a photo of him in one of the articles, a thin man with haunted eyes, telling a reporter that he needed to move on. And Maria had continued to be a nanny. My hands trembled as I read. This didn't mean Maria was dangerous. Paloma's death had been ruled accidental. People get over tragedies. People move on with their lives. But those bruises on Clementine's arms, that scene in the nursery, the way Maria had said, "My baby would have been your friend." I called the agency the next morning. "I need to know," I said to the woman on the phone. "Why didn't you tell me about Maria's daughter?" There was a pause. "Ms. Walsh, we cannot disclose personal information about our nannies unless it is relevant to their ability to care for children. Her daughter died under suspicious circumstances." "Tragic circumstances," the woman interrupted firmly. "Not suspicious. There was a full investigation. Maria was exonerated. She has a right to privacy about her personal history. But I have a right to know who is caring for my daughter. And we provided you with all the relevant background checks, references, and certifications. Maria Cortez is one of our most sought-after nannies. She has been with us for 7 years without a single incident." Well, maybe it's time for another incident. I hung up before I could say something I would regret. I sent Dashiell a message. "I need you to come home, now." "What happened?" "Just come home." But he was in Chicago. He couldn't be back until Friday, still 2 days away. And in the meantime, what was I supposed to do? Miss work? I had just returned from maternity leave. I was still on my probationary period. I couldn't just not show up. That morning, when Maria arrived, I confronted her. "Maria, I need to ask you something." Her smile never wavered. "Of course, Mrs. Walsh." "Why didn't you tell me about Paloma?" Something flashed across her face, just a flicker, disappearing so quickly that I almost missed it. But I saw it. Something dark, something cold. "I didn't think it was relevant," she said softly. "Your daughter died. That seems relevant." My daughter died in a terrible accident 3 years ago. I've had therapy. I've processed my grief. It doesn't affect my ability to care for Clementine. The bruises on her arms. We were playing. Kids get bruises. You were squeezing hard enough to leave marks. Ms. Walsh. Her voice grew firmer. I understand you're concerned. Any mother would be. But I assure you, Clementine is perfectly safe with me. I love her as if she were my own. She stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was thick, heavy. As if she were my own, I finished for her. I didn't mean, I think you should leave. Her expression changed. No longer warm, no longer maternal. Something harder flashed in her eyes. Are you firing me? I'm asking you to leave. For doing my job, for loving your daughter, for taking care of her when you're too busy. The comment cut me off, designed to do so. I'm not too busy. I'm a working mother. Who needs me? Her smile returned but twisted now. Wrong. She needs me because you can't be here. Because you chose your career over your daughter. At least I chose Paloma, every moment, until the end. Get out of my house. Clementine needs me. Now. She grabbed her bag, her face a mask of cold calm. This is a mistake, Mrs. Walsh. A big mistake. But it's your choice. After she left, I called my office and said I was sick. Then I picked up Clementine and held her, inhaling the scent of shampoo from her hair, feeling her heart beat against mine. Why are you crying, Mommy? She asked, her little hands touching my face. I'm not crying, I lied. I'm just happy to be home with you. That night, after putting Clementine to bed, I checked all the doors and windows twice, 3 times. I felt ridiculous, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. At 2 a.m, I heard something, a window opening. I sat bolt upright in bed, my heart racing. Dashiell wasn't here, still in Chicago. We were alone. I grabbed my phone, ready to dial 911, and slid out of bed. The hardwood floors creaked under my feet as I moved toward the hallway. Clementine's bedroom door was ajar. I had locked it. I went in, my heart in my throat. Clementine was still sleeping in her bed, curled up with her doll. But the window I knew I had locked, was open. The curtain was moving in the night breeze, and on the windowsill, left like a calling card, was something, another doll. This one was different from the ones Maria had made before. This one had blonde hair like Clementine, but the dress was black, and around the doll's neck was something tied, a small rope, like a noose. I grabbed the doll, my hand shaking violently, and ran to the window. I closed it, locked it, checked that it was secure. Then I looked out into the yard. There was someone there, a figure standing in the darkness, looking up. Too far away to see clearly, but I knew. Maria. I dialed 911. There's someone on my property, I whispered into the phone. They came in through a second-floor window. I think it's my former nanny. Her name is Maria Cortez, and she's obsessed with my daughter. The officers arrived in 6 minutes. By then, the figure was gone, but the doll was still there. The window had still been open, and when the officers checked, they found a ladder leaning against the side of the house. They filed a report. They took pictures of the doll. They told me to file for a restraining order. That's it? I asked, incredulous. A restraining order. She didn't actually enter the house, ma'am. She left an object on a windowsill. It's technically trespassing, but she put a ladder against my house. She opened my daughter's bedroom window. The doll has a rope around its neck. I understand. It's terrifying. But without a direct threat or actual entry, our options are limited. Dashiell came home the next day. I hired a security company to install an alarm system, cameras everywhere, sensors on every window and door, and for 2 weeks, nothing happened. No sign of Maria, no doll, nothing. I began to relax. Maybe she was gone. Maybe she got the message. Then one afternoon, I was at the supermarket with Clementine when I saw her. Maria, at the end of the aisle, staring straight at us. That smile on her face. I grabbed Clementine and ran in the opposite direction my cart abandoned. We left the supermarket. I ran to my car, put Clementine in her seat so fast that I yelled in frustration with the seatbelt. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetie. Let's go home." I drove, looking in the rearview mirror every 3 seconds. No car was following us. No sign of Maria. But when we got home and I parked in the driveway, I saw her. She was standing on the sidewalk in front of our house, just standing, watching. I took out my phone and called the police while locking the car doors. "She's violating the restraining order," I told them. "She's in front of my house right now. By the time the officers arrived, she was gone again." "You need to arrest her," I told the officer. "This is harassment." "It is, and we're taking it seriously. We have an arrest warrant for violating the restraining order. We just need to find her." They found her 3 days later. Not in front of my house, at Clementine's kindergarten. She had gone there during recess, standing at the fence, calling Clementine. "Come here, sweetie, come to Maria." A teacher had seen her. He had called the police. Maria hadn't resisted. She had just smiled as they handcuffed her, saying over and over, "I just wanted to see my baby. I just wanted to see my baby." They evaluated her psychologically. Schizophrenia, they said, worsening over time, untreated since Paloma's death. She believed Clementine was Paloma, or that Clementine could replace Paloma. The medical details became confusing after that. What mattered was that she went to a psychiatric hospital, that the restraining order was now permanent, that she could never come near us again. But I still look over my shoulder. I still check every window every night. I still jump when I see a woman with dark hair in a bun, and Clementine, who is 3 years old and barely understands what happened, sometimes asks, "Where's Maria?" And I don't know what to say, because how do you explain to a 3-year-old that the woman she loved, who made dolls for her and sang lullabies, saw another girl when she looked at her? A dead girl, a girl she wanted back so desperately that she would have... I don't finish that thought. I can't. Last night, I found something in Clementine's bed, hidden under her pillow, the original rag doll Maria had made, the one I thought we had thrown away. "Where did you get this?" I asked, trying not to let the panic show in my voice. "It's always been here, Mommy," Clementine said, confused. "It never went away. I threw it away that same night." I took it straight to the dumpster outside, burying it under 2 trash bags. But this morning, when I went to wake Clementine, it was there again, on her bed, next to her pillow, smiling that stitched-on rag smile, the button eyes staring at me, and I swear to God I can hear, barely audible, almost imagined, someone humming a lullaby. My name is Quinlan Rhodes, and I am a trauma surgeon at St. Vincent Hospital in Austin, Texas. I work night shifts 3 times a week because the pay is better and because, honestly, I prefer the fast pace of nighttime emergencies to daytime scheduled surgeries. I'm a single mom to a 5-year-old boy named Shepard, and finding reliable nighttime childcare has been a nightmare that has dragged on for years, until I hired Laura Vesper. Or so I thought. That was 4 months ago. My previous babysitter, a sweet woman named Ruth, had moved to Florida to be near her grandchildren. I was desperate. Night shifts didn't give me the luxury of waiting for the perfect babysitter. I posted on every site I could find, care.com, Facebook groups, the hospital job list. Laura responded on the 3rd day. Her resume was impressive. CPR certification, references from 3 families, 10 years of experience. Her photos showed a woman in her 30s with straight brown hair down to her shoulders and a small but pleasant smile, serious green eyes, professional appearance. I interviewed her on a Tuesday afternoon at my house, a small 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. Shepard was at kindergarten, so I could focus entirely on evaluating this woman, who would potentially spend 3 nights a week alone with my son. Laura arrived right on time, not a minute early or late. She wore dark jeans, a simple white blouse, and black flats. No jewelry except a functional watch. Her handshake was firm, her eye contact direct. "Thanks for coming," I said, leading her into the living room. "Would you like coffee, tea?" "Water is fine, thank you." As I poured 2 glasses of water, I asked her the standard questions. Why did she want this job? What was her experience with children Shepard's age? How would she handle an emergency? Her answers were concise, direct, professional, not too effusive, not too cold, perfectly calibrated. "I don't talk much," she said at one point. "Some people find that disconcerting, but I wanted to mention it up front. I'm not a chatty person. I focus on the job." "That's perfectly fine," I said, feeling relieved. After a few previous caregivers who had treated our evenings like therapy sessions while I was trying to prepare for surgeries, someone who didn't talk much sounded refreshing. "I'm also very punctual. I won't be late. I'll arrive early if necessary, and I won't cancel unless it's a real emergency." That's exactly what I need. When Shepard came home from school, I introduced him to Laura. He was shy at first. He always was with new people. But Laura didn't pressure him. She sat on the floor at his level, let him size her up, and eventually he showed her his favorite dinosaurs. "He has good manners," he told her, holding up a plastic T-Rex. "You have to ask permission before you play with them." "Of course," Laura said. "You always have to ask permission." I hired her that same afternoon. The first 2 weeks were perfect. Laura arrived at 5:30 p.m. on the days I worked nights. I left at 6 p.m., arrived at the hospital at 6:30 p.m., and my shift was from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Laura stayed until I returned, usually around 7:15 or 7:30 a.m. When I got home, Shepard was always asleep in his bed. The house was tidy. Laura had prepared Shepard's lunch for the next day. There was a handwritten note on the kitchen table. Shepard had dinner at 6:30, bath at 7. All right, in bed at 8 or genre. All good. L. The notes were always almost identical. Dinner time, bath time, bedtime, all good. "How's it going with Laura?" I would ask Shepard in the mornings as I made his breakfast. "Fine," he would say, focused on his cereal. "Do you play? Do you read books?" "Sometimes, but she says it's important to have quiet time too." "That's good. Do you feel safe with her?" "Yes, Mommy." He looked at me with those big blue eyes. "Why wouldn't you feel safe?" "Just checking, sweetie." But there was something. Something small that I couldn't identify. Nothing concrete, just a feeling. Like when you see something out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn directly, there's nothing there. The 3rd week, I noticed something strange. I'd left my cell phone in my purse on the kitchen table when I rushed out to my dentist appointment on my day off. When I returned, the purse was exactly where I had left it, but the phone was in a different pocket than the one I normally used. I mentioned it to Shepard. "Did you move anything in my purse, sweetie?" "No, Mommy." "Did you see anyone else touching it?" "No." I had probably put it in that pocket and forgotten. I had been exhausted lately. 12-hour shifts take their toll, but then the calls started. The first one was during my 4th week with Laura. It was Thursday around midnight. I was in the middle of consulting with a motorcycle trauma patient when my cell phone vibrated in my pocket. I ignored it. I always did during procedures, but it vibrated again and again. Someone was calling insistently. "Excuse me for a moment," I said to the nurse, leaving the trauma room to check my phone. 3 missed calls, all from my home phone. My heart raced. Laura never called. The instructions were clear. Only call in a real emergency. I dialed my home number with trembling fingers. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered, but they didn't speak. "Hello?" I said, my voice rising. "Laura? Shepard?" Silence, but not complete silence. I could hear something. Breathing. Rapid, agitated breathing. "Who's there?" My voice was now a whispered scream. "Who's there?" Then, so soft I almost missed it, I heard Shepard's voice. "Mommy." "Shepard. Sweetheart, are you okay?" "Mommy." His voice was small, scared. "The babysitter says don't move." The world stopped. "What?" "Shepard." "What does that mean?" Get me Laura. Get me Laura now." The line went dead. I dialed again. It went straight to voicemail. The scalpel I had been holding during the consultation fell from my gloved hand, hitting the tile floor with a metallic clink. My hands were shaking so violently that I could barely hold my phone. "Dr. Rhodes, are you okay?" asked the nurse, appearing at the door. "I have to go. Family emergency. Get Dr. Patel to cover." I didn't wait for a response. I ran to my locker, ripping off my protective gear as I ran. I dialed 911 with fingers that barely worked. 911, what is your emergency?" "My son," I gasped, struggling with my surgical gown. "Something is wrong." I got a call from my house. My son said the babysitter told him not to move. I don't know what that means, but something is wrong. "What is your address?" I gave it to her, my words coming out in a rushed torrent. "We're sending officers. Can you get to the house?" "I'm on my way now." I ran out of the hospital, still in my surgical shoes, without my jacket, without anything except my phone and my keys. The parking lot was dark, the sodium lights casting everything in a sickly orange. I drove like a mad woman, running red lights, speeding at 90 kilometers per hour in 50 zones. Every second felt like an eternity. Every image my brain conjured was worse than the last. Shepard tied up. Shepard hurt. Shepard... No, I couldn't go there. I couldn't think that. But what did she mean by, "The babysitter says don't move"? Was it a threat? Was there someone else in the house? An intruder Laura was trying to protect him from? Or was it Laura? Laura was the threat, but why? I had passed the background checks. I had references. It didn't make sense. I got home in 11 minutes, a trip that normally took 25. 2 patrol cars were already there, silent lights spinning. Neighbors were on their porches watching. I got out of the car before it came to a complete stop, running toward the door. An officer stopped me. "Ma'am, is this your house?" "Yes, my son is inside. I got a call." "Calm down. We're already inside. The house is secure." "What do you mean secure? Where is my son?" "He's inside. He's fine. But we need you to..." I didn't wait. I pushed past him, running through my front door. The living room was brightly lit, every lamp turned on. And there, on the couch, was Shepard. Asleep, curled up under his favorite dinosaur blanket, his thumb in his mouth like he used to do when he was younger. Laura was sitting in the chair next to the couch, completely calm, looking at me with those serious green eyes. "Dr. Rhodes," she said softly, "I'm sorry for the confusion." Confusion. My voice came out as a scream. Confusion. My son called me saying you told him not to move. "He misunderstood," Laura said, her voice that same professional monotone. "We were playing a game, cops and robbers. I told him that the robber mustn't move when the cop catches him. He must have misunderstood when he found the phone." "What phone?" "His cell phone. He found it in his bag this morning and was playing with it. He must have dialed accidentally. When I heard he was talking to you, I ended the call so as not to disturb you at work." I looked around the room. My purse was on the table by the door where I always left it. I could see my phone partially visible inside. "My phone is in my pocket," I said slowly. "I've had it all night." Laura blinked. "Oh. Then there must be 2 phones. Do you have a work phone?" "No." "Then I really don't know what phone Shepard was talking about. Kids have vivid imaginations." One of the officers approached. "Ma'am, do you want to file a complaint?" I looked at Shepard, sleeping peacefully. I looked at Laura, sitting calmly, her hands folded in her lap. "I don't know what's going on. All I know," said the officer, "is that we arrived and found the child sleeping, and Miss Vesper sitting here reading. No signs of distress, no signs of danger. But the call. Kids make accidental calls all the time. My son called 911 3 times last month playing with my phone. After the officers left, after checking 3 times that Shepard was physically okay, no marks, no injuries, I sat down on the couch next to my sleeping son and looked at Laura. "I want you to tell me exactly what happened tonight. I already told you. The truth, not that story about cops and robbers. Laura looked at me for a long moment. Then something changed in her expression. Not much, just a slight adjustment in the corners of her mouth, almost like a smile. I wanted to see, she said softly. See what? If you would come, if you would leave your job, if you would believe me or him. My blood ran cold. What? Shepard didn't make that call. I did, from his cell phone, the one I took from his bag 2 weeks ago. I've been saving it for the right moment. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I told Shepard to say those words. I told him it was a game, that Mom would laugh if he said exactly that. She leaned forward. I wanted to see if you're the kind of mother who would drop everything for her child, if you really love him more than your career. You're sick, I whispered. You passed the test, Laura said, as if she hadn't heard me. You came running. You left your surgery. That's good. It means you're a good mother. Get out of my house. But there are more tests, Dr. Rhodes. This was just the first. Get out of my house now or I'll call the police again. Laura stood up, gathering her bag with calm, methodical movements. The officers found nothing wrong. There's no evidence of any crime. It's her word against mine. And Shepard won't even remember this tomorrow. He'll think it was a dream. She moved toward the door, then paused. I'll be here on Tuesday as usual. After all, you need a babysitter. And I'm very good at my job. The door closed softly behind her. I stood there, trembling, looking at my sleeping son. I shook him gently. Shepard. Shep, honey, wake up. His eyes opened, confused. Mommy. Why are you here? I thought you were at work. I came home early. Honey, do you remember calling me tonight? He frowned. I didn't call. Do you remember talking to me on the phone? I had a dream, he said slowly, about talking to you, but it was a dream. What did you say in the dream? I don't remember, he yawned. Can I go back to sleep? I carried him to his bed, tucked him in, kissed his forehead. Then I searched my entire house. Every room, every closet, every corner. I found my cell phone, my real phone, not in my pocket as I had thought, in my nightstand drawer. Where had I left it? Or where had Laura put it back after using it? I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the sofa with all the lights on, a kitchen knife in my lap, waiting. For what? For Laura to come back, for it to have been a hallucination caused by exhaustion. The next morning, I called the agency that had connected me with Laura. I need you to give me all the information you have on Laura Vesper. I'm sorry, but we don't have anyone by that name in our files, said the woman on the phone. That's impossible. She told me you referred her. We didn't, ma'am, and we don't have any Laura Vesper on file. I Googled Laura Vesper, Austin, Texas nanny. Nothing. I looked up her phone number. Prepaid. No record. The references she had provided, I called each one. The numbers were disconnected. All three. Laura Vesper didn't exist. Or she did, but she wasn't who she said she was. I called the police and filed a report. I showed them her photo, the one I had from our email communications. I gave them all the details I could remember. We'll run a background check, they said. But without an actual crime committed, there's not much we can do. She stole my phone. She manipulated my son. Did she enter your home without permission? I gave her permission, as a babysitter. Did she steal anything? My phone, but she gave it back. So nothing is missing. It's not about things. It's about her doing something twisted to test me. The officer sighed. Look, Mrs. Rhodes, I understand you're upset, but what you're describing, while strange, isn't technically illegal. Keep her away from your house, get a different babysitter, but without a direct threat or actual harm, we can't arrest her. I didn't go to work that week. I called in sick, used vacation days I didn't have. I stayed home with Shepard, obsessively checking the locks, jumping at every noise. On Tuesday, at 5:30 sharp, someone knocked on the door. I looked through the peephole. Laura, standing there in her dark jeans and white blouse, holding a Tupperware container of what looked like homemade cookies. "Dr. Rhodes," she called through the door. "I know you're home. Your car is in the driveway. Go away or I'll call the police. I haven't done anything wrong. I came to work as we agreed. You're fired. But then who will take care of Shepard? I heard he hasn't been to work this week." "How long can you afford that? Surgeons don't have the luxury of taking indefinite time off." How did she know he hadn't been to work? "I'm recording you," I said, even though I wasn't. "If you don't leave, this goes to the police." There was a long pause. Then, "Fine, I'll leave. But Dr. Rhodes, there's something you should know." "What?" "I've been in your house many times. I have keys. I have your schedule. I know Shepard's school, his route, his teacher. I know your vulnerabilities." My heart stopped. "And I have something of his that he values. Something he'll notice is missing soon." "What are you talking about?" "Check Shepard's room, his favorite dinosaur, the T-Rex he showed me on the first day. It's not there, is it?" I ran upstairs. Shepard's room, his dinosaur shelf. The T-Rex was missing. "It's just a toy," Laura continued from the doorway. "But he loves it. He's going to miss it. He's going to ask about it. Give it back." "I will. Next Tuesday. When you let me in to work as usual. That's this week's test. Can you let me do my job even when you don't trust me? Or is your paranoia stronger than your need? This is blackmail. This is a test. All mothers need to be tested. They need to prove they're worthy of their children." I heard her footsteps receding. A car starting. Silence. I called a locksmith that same day. I changed all the locks. I installed security cameras. I hired a retired police officer as a bodyguard to escort Shepard to and from school. The dinosaur appeared 3 days later. In the mailbox, wrapped in tissue paper like a gift. There was no note, but when Shepard found it, he screamed with joy. "Mommy, you found Rex. I thought he was gone forever." "He never left, sweetie," I lied. "He was just stored away." I hired a new nanny, a 60-year-old woman named Barbara with impeccable background checks from a legitimate agency that I personally verified. She was a grandmother, warm, normal, but I kept looking over my shoulder. I kept checking my phone obsessively to make sure it was really mine, that no one had taken it. And then the next call came. 2 weeks later, midnight again. My phone vibrated during emergency surgery. Unknown number. I ignored it. It vibrated again. Again. This time, I went out to answer it. "Hello?" Silence, breathing, then Shepard's voice. "Mommy, the babysitter says the next test is harder." "What?" "Shepard, where are you? Are you with Barbara?" "She says you have to choose, your job or me." "You can only save one. Where are you?" The line went dead. I called my house. Barbara answered immediately, sounding confused. "Dr. Rhodes, Shepard is fine. He's asleep in his bed. Is everything okay? Has anyone called? Has anyone been there?" "No, no one. We've been alone all night." I rushed home anyway. Barbara was on the couch reading. Shepard was sleeping peacefully in his bed. "But the call," I said, showing her my phone. "See? Unknown number, 10 minutes ago." "No phone rang here," Barbara said, looking concerned. "Dr. Rhodes, are you feeling okay? Maybe you should take a few days off." Was I going crazy? Had I imagined Shepard's voice? Then I found something in Shepard's room. On his shelf, among the dinosaurs. A phone. A small cheap phone, prepaid. It wasn't mine. I turned it on. There was an audio recording saved. I played it. Shepard's voice. "Mommy, the babysitter says the next test is harder." A recording. Laura had recorded her voice, left the phone here, set everything up to call me. But when? How had she gotten in? The locks had been changed. The cameras showed nothing. Unless... I checked the security cameras more carefully. I rewound to the period when I was at work, and I saw her. Barbara, opening the front door, letting someone in. The camera didn't capture the person's face, just a hooded figure coming in, staying for 10 minutes, leaving. I confronted Barbara the next morning. "Did you let someone in last night?" She looked confused. "What? No, The security cameras show you opening the door." Her face turned pale. Oh my God. "Yes, I'm sorry. A woman came. She said she was your sister, that she had forgotten something. She just came in for a moment." "I don't have a sister." "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. She seemed so normal, so trustworthy. It was only a minute." I fired Barbara, not because she was malicious, but because Laura had deceived her. And if she could deceive Barbara, she could deceive anyone. I couldn't trust anyone anymore. I cut my shifts down to 2 a week, then to 1. My supervisor expressed concern. "Dr. Rhodes, your performance has been erratic. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine." "Are you sure? Because we're seeing concentration issues, tardiness, visible anxiety." I said I'm fine, but I wasn't. Laura was everywhere and nowhere. I saw her at the grocery store. I saw her at Shepherd's school. I saw her in my rearview mirror. Except every time I looked directly, it was someone else, a stranger who vaguely resembled her. Or was it really Laura, with wigs, with disguises? I couldn't tell anymore. The phone rang last night, 3 in the morning. I answered it automatically before realizing I shouldn't. "Hello, Dr. Rhodes." Laura's voice, calm, professional. "What do you want?" I whispered, not wanting to wake Shepherd, who was now sleeping in my bed, never alone, never out of my sight. "I just called to check, to see if you've learned your lesson." "What lesson?" "That you can't protect him from everything, that your love isn't enough, that no matter how hard you try, there will always be cracks. You're sick. I'm helping. Someday you'll understand. Someday you'll thank me for making you a better mother. Never. We'll see about that. The next test is coming soon, and this one counts." The line went dead. I haven't slept since. I sit here, writing this, with Shepherd asleep beside me and a knife on the nightstand. Every noise is her. Every shadow is a threat. Every phone call sends me into a panic. And I know she's going to make good on her threat. The next test is coming, and I don't know if I'll pass. The phone just rang. It's my home number, but I'm home, and the landline is here, in my hand. "So who's calling?" I answer. "Mommy," Shepherd's voice says. But Shepherd is here, sleeping next to me. I can see him. I can touch him. "This is the final test," says the voice that sounds exactly like my son. "Come outside, alone, or you'll never know if this is real." I look at the window. There's a figure there, in the front yard, holding something small, something the size of a 5-year-old. My name is Brian E. Caldwell, and I am 23 years old. I need you to understand this first. I'm not someone who is easily frightened. I grew up on a farm in Iowa, accustomed to the silence of the night, to creaking houses, to being alone. But that house in Bellevue, Washington, that 3-story Victorian with its dark windows and overgrown yard, that house nearly killed me. It was my 3rd night babysitting Ledger Armitage, a 6-year-old boy with eyes too serious for his age. His mother, Vesper Armitage, had hired me through a babysitting app. She needed someone for the nights because she worked nursing shifts at Swedish Hospital from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The pay was generous, $25 an hour, and I desperately needed the money. My student loans weren't going to pay themselves. The first night had been normal. Vesper gave me a quick tour of the house, kitchen on the 1st floor, living room, dining room that they obviously didn't use. 2nd floor, Ledger's room, her room, a bathroom. 3rd floor, locked rooms she called storage. The house was too big for 2 people, with high ceilings and hallways that seemed to extend beyond where the light reached. Ledger is very quiet, Vesper had told me, adjusting her burgundy nurse's uniform. You probably won't even know he's here. He goes to bed at 8 and sleeps through the night. And she was right. The first night, Ledger ate his mac and cheese without saying a word, brushed his teeth when I asked him to, and crawled into bed with his stuffed wolf. "Good night," he whispered, and that was it. The house had fallen silent after that. Only the hum of the old refrigerator and the occasional creak of the wood settling. The second night was the same. Ledger ate, bathed, went to bed. I stayed in the living room, staring at my phone, half asleep, on the worn-out couch, until Vesper returned at 7:30 in the morning, with deep dark circles under her eyes and a tired smile. "Everything okay?" she asked, dropping her keys in the bowl by the door. "Perfect. Ledger's an angel." "Yeah," she said, but something in her tone made me look at her twice. There was a tension there, something I hadn't noticed before, but she was tired, and so was I, so I didn't press it. The third night started out just like the previous ones. I arrived at 6:30, Vesper let me in, and Ledger was sitting on the living room floor playing with plastic dinosaurs. "Hey, Ledger," I greeted him, leaving my backpack by the door. He looked up, gave me that shy little smile, and went back to his game. Vesper seemed more tense that night. She kept checking her phone, looking out the dining room window, double-checking that the front door was locked. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just make sure all the doors are locked, okay? The back door sometimes doesn't close properly. You have to push it hard until you hear the click." "Sure, no problem. And if anything happens, anything at all, call me immediately, or call 911, whichever is faster." That made me pause. "Vesper, is there something I should know?" No, I'd rather be safe." She gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'll probably be back a little early tonight, around 5 or 6 in the morning." After she left, I checked the back door as she had asked. It was in the kitchen, an old wooden door with a latch that had definitely seen better days. I pushed it hard until I heard the click. Then I pulled to make sure. Locked. Ledger had dinner, chicken nuggets this time, and then we played with his dinosaurs on the living room floor for an hour. He was a sweet kid, really. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his comments were intelligent and thoughtful. "That's a Parasaurolophus," he told me, pointing to one of the dinosaurs. "They ate plants, not like the T-Rexes." "You're very smart," I said. "My dad taught me about dinosaurs," he said, then fell abruptly silent, as if he had said something wrong. "That's great. Does your dad know a lot about dinosaurs?" Ledger didn't answer. He just kept playing, but his movements had become more rigid. At 8, I took him upstairs for his bedtime routine. Teeth, pajamas, bed. I turned on his nightlight, a moon-shaped lamp that projected stars onto the ceiling, and tucked him in. "Can you leave the door open?" he asked, his voice small. "Sure. And Bryony, if you hear anything, don't come downstairs." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean, sweetie?" "Just don't come downstairs. Stay with me." "Ledger, have you been hearing things? At night?" He shrugged, clutching his stuffed wolf tighter. "Sometimes. It's probably just the wind." "Probably," I repeated, though my stomach had tightened into a knot. I slowly made my way down the stairs, every creak of the old steps making me jump. The house felt different that night. Bigger, darker. The high ceilings cast strange shadows in the dim light I had left on downstairs. I sat down on the couch, trying to focus on an essay I had to write for my sociology class. But I kept looking up, glancing toward the dark windows, toward the back door I could barely see from where I sat. The clock on the kitchen wall read 9, then 10, 11. At 11:30, I heard something. A crack, loud, like footsteps on the back porch. I froze, my laptop open on my lap, my fingers frozen on the keyboard. I waited, holding my breath. Nothing. "Just the house settling," I whispered to myself. "Or an animal outside." But my heart was beating too fast. At midnight, I decided to check the back door again, just to be sure. I got up, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor, and walked to the kitchen. The back door was ajar. I froze, staring at it, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. I had definitely closed it. I had heard the click. I had pulled to secure it, but now it was open, maybe an inch, just enough for the cold March air to seep in. "The wind," I said aloud, my voice shaking. "Vesper said it doesn't close properly." I approached the door, my hands trembling as I grabbed it. I closed it tightly, listening for the click of the latch. This time I locked it too, turning the knob to make sure it was secure. Then I looked toward the back porch, and I saw the footprints, boot prints, fresh, in the dust and dirt that covered the old porch boards, leading toward the door, as if someone had been standing there recently. I backed away so quickly that I tripped over a kitchen chair, grabbing the counter to keep my balance. My breath came in short, sharp gasps. Someone had been on the porch. Someone had opened the door. Or were they still there? I ran to the kitchen window, pressing my face against the glass, trying to see the backyard. But it was too dark. Just black, undefined shapes. Trees, bushes, shadows. Was something moving out there, among the trees? I couldn't be sure. I pulled out my phone, my fingers clumsy as I dialed Vesper's number. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. "Vesper, it's Bryony," I whispered into the message. "Something's going on. The back door was open, and there are footprints, and I think someone... Just call me, please." I hung up, staring at my phone, as if I could make her answer by force of will. Then I heard something upstairs. Footsteps. Small ones. The sound of bare feet on the hardwood floor. Ledger. I ran up the stairs, taking the steps 2 at a time. Ledger was standing in the hallway outside his room, his stuffed wolf hanging from one hand, his eyes huge in the darkness. "What's wrong, sweetie?" I asked, kneeling in front of him. "Did you have a nightmare?" "I heard a noise," he whispered. "Downstairs." I heard it too. Probably just an animal outside. "Do you want to go back to bed?" He shook his head. "Can I stay with you?" "Sure." I took his hand, noticing how cold it was. "Let's go downstairs. You can lie on the sofa with me." As we descended the stairs, Ledger stopped abruptly, staring at the front door. "What?" I asked. "It's open." My blood ran cold. The front door, the door I had seen Vesper lock, the door I hadn't touched all night, was ajar. Just a little. Like the back door had been. "Stay here," I said to Ledger, my voice barely working. "Stay right here." I approached the door slowly, each step feeling like walking underwater. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears, a steady, dull thud. I reached the door. I peered through the crack into the front porch. Someone was there, a figure, tall, male, standing at the end of the driveway looking toward the house. I slammed the door shut, my fingers frantically locking the bolts. 1, 2, 3 bolts I hadn't noticed before. "Ledger, upstairs, now." He must have heard the panic in my voice because he didn't argue. He ran upstairs and I followed, grabbing his hand, practically dragging him to his room. Once inside, I closed the door and dragged his small dresser in front of it. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Bryony, you're scaring me," Ledger cried. "I know, sweetie, I'm sorry. We just need to stay here, okay?" I took out my phone again. This time I dialed 911. 911. "What is your emergency?" "There's someone outside the house," I whispered, trying to keep my voice calm for Ledger. "I'm babysitting, and someone opened the doors. I saw someone outside." "What is your address?" I gave it to him, my words stumbling over each other. "Are you safe right now?" "I'm in the child's room with the door locked." "Good. Stay there. Officers are on their way. Can you describe the person you saw?" "A man. Tall. That's all I could see. It was dark." "Is he armed?" "No. I don't know. I couldn't see." Ledger was tugging at my sleeve. "Bryony." "Wait, sweetie." "Bryony, it's my dad." The world stopped. I turned to look at him, still holding the phone to my ear. "What?" "It's my dad. Outside. He comes sometimes. At night. Mommy says he can't, but he comes anyway." "Ma'am." "Are you still there?" The operator's voice sounded distant. "Yes, the boy says it's his father." Do the parents have joint custody? I don't know. The mother never mentioned... Wait. I moved away from Ledger, lowering my voice. Is there a restraining order against the father? Ledger Armitage. Checking. Yes. Active restraining order against Garrick Armitage. He can't be within 500 feet of the residence or the minor. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. How far away are the officers? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 300 seconds. An eternity. Then I heard something that made my heart stop completely. The stairs. Someone climbing the stairs. The creaks were slow, deliberate, as if whoever was climbing wasn't in a hurry. As if they knew we couldn't go anywhere. Someone's in the house, I whispered into the phone. They're coming up the stairs. Stay where you are. Officers are 2 minutes away. Ledger began to cry, silent sobs shaking his little shoulders. I pulled him toward me, pressing his face against my chest to muffle the sound. The footsteps stopped, right outside the door. I watched the doorknob, waiting for it to turn, for the door to push against the dresser. But it didn't happen. Instead, I heard a voice. Low, rough, speaking through the door. Ledger, son, I know you're in there. Ledger tensed in my arms. Dad just wants to see you. He just wants to talk to you. You don't have to be afraid. My mouth was so dry I couldn't swallow. I kept one hand pressed against Ledger's back, the other holding my phone on silent mode against my ear. Your mom has been telling you lies about me, son. Horrible lies, but they're not true. Daddy loves you. Daddy just wants to take you home. Silence. Then, I know there's someone there with you. The babysitter. Bryony, right? Hey, Bryony. We don't have to make this difficult. Just open the door. Let me see my son. Then I'll leave. Easy. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I was barely breathing. Bryony, I can break down this door. It's just old wood. I could probably do it with a good shove, but I don't want to scare Ledger. So I'm going to give you a chance. Open the door. Now. The doorknob began to turn. The dresser shook as the door pushed against it. Last chance, Bryony. Then I heard the most beautiful thing in the world. Sirens. Footsteps retreated from the door. Quick now, running down the stairs. Officers are entering the property now, the operator said in my ear. I heard shouting from below. Police! Hands up! More shouting, struggling. Something broke. Then silence. Footsteps coming up the stairs again, but different this time. Faster. Multiple pairs. Miss Caldwell, this is Officer Ramirez. Can you open the door? Is it safe? My voice sounded broken, barely recognizable. It's safe. We have him in custody. I pushed the dresser away from the door with all the strength I had left, my arm shaking. I unlocked the door. 2 officers stood there, a woman and a man, both with serious expressions. Are you hurt? Officer Ramirez asked. I shook my head, then looked at Ledger. Are you okay, sweetheart? He nodded, still clutching my shirt. It was Garrick Armitage, I said. The father. He broke into the house. We know. He's handcuffed downstairs. You'll need to come in and give statements. As we descended the stairs, Ledger refusing to let go of me, my legs barely functioning, I saw Garrick. He was handcuffed on the living room floor, 2 officers standing over him. He was taller than he had appeared from a distance, with a scruffy beard and eyes that followed me as I passed. I just wanted to see my son, he said, his voice suddenly plaintive. Is that so wrong, wanting to see your own son? Shut up, one of the officers said. Vesper arrived 20 minutes later, still in her hospital gown, her face the color of ash. She rushed to Ledger, pulling him from my arms, checking him over everywhere. Did he hurt you? Did he touch you? I'm fine, Mommy. Bryony kept me safe. Vesper looked at me with eyes full of tears. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I should have warned you. Why didn't you? Because I thought he'd stopped coming. It's been 2 weeks since he last tried. I thought he finally understood. And I needed the help so badly, and I was afraid that if I told you, you wouldn't take the job. He's been doing this, breaking into the house. She nodded, sobbing now. Since I got the restraining orders 6 months ago, we changed the locks 3 times. He keeps finding ways to get in. An officer approached. Ms. Armitage, we're going to need you to come to the station for a statement. And I would strongly recommend finding a different place to stay until this is resolved. He knows where you live. He's going to try again. Vesper looked around her house, this old big house that now felt contaminated by his presence, and nodded. We'll move. We'll leave tomorrow. I stayed until Vesper packed a few bags, until she and Ledger walked out the door with an officer escorting them. Then I finally left too, into the cold March night, to my car parked on the street. I didn't come back. Vesper sent me a message 2 days later. We moved to an apartment with 24/7 security. Ledger is fine. Thank you for saving us. I'm so sorry. I didn't reply, because every time I close my eyes, I can still hear that voice, low, rough, speaking through the door. I can break down this door, it's just old wood, and I know it was true, that he could have done it, that the only reason he didn't was because the sirens arrived just in time. My name is Indigo Marsh, and I'm 25 years old. When I got the job babysitting Clover Holloway in that exclusive neighborhood in Greenwich, Connecticut, I thought I'd won the nanny lottery. A huge house on a tree-lined street where every residence was worth at least $3 million. Professional parents who paid $30 an hour. A 4-year-old girl who slept like an angel and never cried. It was perfect, too perfect. I should have known something was wrong from the start. But I was 25, drowning in student loans, and arrogant enough to think that nothing bad could happen to me in a neighborhood where people had military-grade security systems. The Holloways hired me in October. Sterling and Azalea Holloway, both corporate lawyers, needed help 5 nights a week while they worked late. Sterling was tall, with dark hair prematurely gray at the temples, and the quiet confidence that comes with old money. Azalea was younger, maybe 35, beautiful in that polished way that requires constant maintenance. Clover is very easy, Azalea told me during the interview, sitting in her kitchen that was bigger than my entire apartment. Dinner at 6, bath at 7, bed at 8. She sleeps through the night. She's a dream, honestly. Sounds wonderful, I said, trying not to stare at the 6-burner Viking range that probably cost more than my car. There's just one thing. Sterling had leaned forward, her hands folded on the marble table. The neighbor next door, Tempest. If you see her, if she tries to talk to you, just don't engage. Be polite but brief. Tempest Vale. She lives in the house next door. Azalea pointed toward the window, where I could see an equally impressive Tudor house through the trees. She's complicated. Complicated how? Sterling and Azalea exchanged a glance. Just trust us, Sterling said. Stay away from her. I should have asked more. I should have insisted on knowing what complicated meant. But I needed the money, and $30 an hour spoke louder than my instincts. My first night was a Monday. The Holloways left at 6, after quickly showing me around the house. Dream kitchen, formal living room they obviously never used. Clover's playroom on the 2nd floor. Her bedroom at the end of the hall. Everything was designer, impeccable, like a page out of a decorating magazine. Clover was exactly as easy as they had promised. We had organic mac and cheese for dinner. Played with her American Girl dolls, took bubble baths that smelled like lavender. By 8 o'clock, she was in bed, her blue eyes closing before I finished the 2nd book. I sat in the living room, doing my master's homework on my laptop, enjoying the silence. The house was so quiet, so peaceful. Around 9, I looked up from my screen and glanced toward the front window. The house next door was fully lit, and in the 2nd floor window, directly across from where I was sitting, was a woman, looking at me. It wasn't a casual glance. It wasn't someone passing by her window. She was standing there, completely still, her hands pressed against the glass, looking directly at me. A chill ran down my spine. I quickly looked away, focusing on my laptop. Just a curious neighbor, I told myself. Natural to be interested in the new nanny. But when I looked back 5 minutes later, she was still there, in the exact same position, staring. I closed the curtains. When Sterling and Azalea came home at 11, I didn't mention the neighbor. I didn't want to sound paranoid on my first day. The second night was the same. Clover was an angel. The routine was smooth. But around 9, when I glanced toward the front window before closing the curtains, there she was again. The woman in the window. This time I could see her more clearly. 50-something, maybe. Ash blonde hair down to her shoulders. Thin face, and those eyes, even from that distance, felt piercing. I closed the curtains faster this time. On the third night, something changed. I was in the kitchen making Clover's snack when my phone rang. Unknown number. I don't usually answer those, but I thought maybe it was the Holloways calling from a work phone. Hello? Silence, but not empty silence. Someone was there. I could hear breathing. Hello? I repeated louder. Then a voice, female, hoarse, as if she had been smoking for decades. I know what you do to her. My stomach sank. Excuse me, who is this? I know what you do to my baby. I think you have the wrong number. Clover, my little Clover, I know you have her. The line went dead. I stood there, my phone still pressed to my ear, my heart beating painfully fast. Her baby. Her Clover. I went upstairs, checking the baby monitor in Clover's room. She was sleeping peacefully, her little chest rising and falling steadily. I called Azalea. Indigo, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Yes, Clover's fine, but I got a strange call. A woman saying Clover is her baby. Silence on the other end. Then, what exactly did she say? I repeated the words. I heard Azalea inhale sharply. It was Tempest, she said. Shit. I thought we were done with this. Who is Tempest? Why would she call saying Clover is hers? She's Sterling's ex-wife, from a long time ago, before I met him. They've been divorced for 10 years, but she's obsessed with him, with the idea of having a family with him. When Clover was born, Tempest started... God, this sounds so crazy. She started what? Pretending that Clover was hers, that she and Sterling were still together, that I was, I don't know, an intruder or something. We had to get a restraining order. She wasn't supposed to contact us. My mouth was dry. How did she get my number? I don't know. But I'm going to call our lawyer and the police. Can you stay until we get home? We're leaving now. Yes. Yes, of course. After hanging up, I sat in the living room, every nerve on high alert. I checked all the doors. Locked. I checked all the windows. Locked. Then I looked toward the front window. The curtains were closed, but I could see a glow of light from the edges. And a shadow. A female shadow, moving behind the curtains. She was there, watching, waiting. Sterling and Azalea got home in 20 minutes. They had called the police, who had apparently gone to Tempest's house to remind her of the restraining order. We're so sorry, Sterling said, running a hand through his hair. This shouldn't have happened. We thought she had stopped doing these things. Has she done this before, with other babysitters? Azalea looked down. That's why the last two quit. Oh, great. Look, Sterling said, if you want to quit, we'd completely understand, but we'll pay you double, $60 an hour, and we'll install additional security cameras. And you can call us, or the police, anytime if anything strange happens. $60 an hour, $300 a night, $1,500 a week. I'll stay, I said, even though every instinct in me screamed to run. The next few days were relatively uneventful. No calls, no sightings of Tempest at the window. I began to relax, to think that maybe the police visit had worked. Then I found the first note. It was Sunday night, my 5th night with the Holloways. I was taking out the trash when I saw it, tucked under the doormat at the back door. A white envelope, unmarked. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside, in neat, feminine handwriting, "She's not yours. She's not hers. She's mine. She's always been mine. You made a mistake taking her." The note fell from my fingers. I took out my phone, snapped a photo of the note, and called Azalea. "Go back inside," she said immediately. "Lock all the doors. We're on our way." "How did she get onto the property? You have fences, gates." "She knows all the codes. She used to live here. This was her home with Sterling before the divorce." My blood ran cold. "What?" "They lived here together for 5 years. After the divorce, he kept the house. But she knows every entrance, every lock, probably has copies of keys. Azalea, I need you to be honest with me. How dangerous is she?" A long pause. Too long. "She's never physically hurt anyone, but she's unstable, unpredictable." That night, after the Holloways returned, after the police came again and took the note as evidence, after Sterling changed all the door codes, I went home to my little apartment and lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Should I quit? It was the sensible thing to do, but $1,500 a week. In a month, I could pay off my credit card debt. In 3 months, I could make a substantial payment on my student loans. And Clover. Sweet, innocent 4-year-old Clover, who had no idea that an unbalanced woman considered her her daughter. I couldn't just abandon her. I decided to stay, but I also decided to protect myself. The next day, I bought 2 small cameras with my own credit card, the kind that connect to your phone and send you motion alerts. I installed them discreetly, one pointing at the back door, the other at the front door. That night, Monday, I started my shift with new determination. Clover and I had dinner, played, got ready for bed, everything normal. At 9, my phone vibrated, motion alert from the back camera. I opened the app, my heart beating faster. The recording showed a figure moving across the backyard. Female, thin, approaching the back door. Tempest. I watched her on the small screen as she tried the doorknob. Locked. She moved to the window next to the door, pressing her face against the glass, trying to look inside. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost dropped the phone. Then she did something that chilled me to the bone. She took out her phone and took pictures. Of the house. Of the windows. As if she were documenting something. I dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? There's someone on the property where I'm babysitting, I whispered. Running upstairs to Clover's room. A woman. Tempest Vale. She has a restraining order against her. What is your address? I gave it to them, closing Clover's bedroom door quietly behind me. Clover was still asleep, oblivious. We're sending officers. Are you inside the house? She's in the backyard, testing the doors. Are you safe right now? I'm in the child's room with the door closed. Good, stay there. I looked at my phone, switching to the camera app. Tempest had now moved, walking around the perimeter of the house, testing every window on the first floor. Then he disappeared from view. Where had he gone? I switched to the front camera. Nothing. I called Sterling and Azalea. Tempest is here, circling the house. I already called the police. We're on our way, Sterling said, his voice tense. Is Clover with you? Yes. She's sleeping. I'm with her. Good. Stay there. Don't leave the room. 5 minutes passed. 10. The house was silent except for my own raspy breathing. Then I heard something. A creak. Downstairs. Like someone stepping on a loose floorboard. He had gotten in. Somehow he had a key, or he had found an unlocked window, or he had broken something. It didn't matter how. What mattered was that he was inside. I heard footsteps. Slow. Coming up the stairs. I grabbed the only thing in the room I could use as a weapon. A heavy lamp from Clover's nightstand. I unplugged it, holding it like a bat. The footsteps stopped in the hallway, right outside the door. The doorknob began to turn. Clover. Tempest's voice, muffled by the door. Clover, sweetie, it's Mommy. Open the door. Clover stirred in her bed, her eyes opening in confusion. Shh, I whispered, putting a finger to my lips. Clover, I know you're awake. I can hear you. Open the door for Mommy. She's not your mommy, I shouted through the door, surprised by the force in my voice. The police are on their way. You have to leave. You're the one who shouldn't be here, Tempest replied, her voice rising. You're a stranger. I lived in this house. I chose the wallpaper in that room. I painted those walls. That should be my daughter sleeping in there. But she's not. She is. A bang on the door made me jump. Sterling took her from me. That bitch took her from me, but I'm going to get her back. I'm going to get back what's mine. Another knock. Louder. The door shook in its frame. Clover began to cry, silent, terrified sobs. It's okay, sweetie, I whispered, though my own voice was shaking. It's okay. Another bang. The wood near the lock began to splinter. Where were the police? Where were the Holloways? Then I heard the most beautiful thing in the world. Sirens. The banging stopped. No, Tempest muttered from the other side of the door. No, I need more time. I heard his footsteps running down the stairs. I heard shouting from outside. Police, hands up. More shouting, struggling. I stood there, holding that lamp, my whole body shaking, until I heard Sterling's voice. Indigo, Clover, can you open the door? It's safe. I opened the door slowly. Sterling was there, his face pale, 2 police officers behind him. Are you okay? I nodded, unable to speak. We've got her, one of the officers said. She's in custody, violation of restraining order, trespassing, attempted kidnapping. How did she get in? Sterling asked. Basement window. She forced it. Azalea appeared, running up the stairs, snatching Clover from my arms. My baby, my baby. Clover was crying now, clinging to her mother. There was a bad lady. She said she was my mommy, but she's not. You're my mommy. I know, sweetie, I know. The officers needed my statement. I went downstairs, my legs barely working, and told them everything. The calls, the notes, the camera recordings, the knocks on the door. Do you have the recordings? One asked. Yes, on my phone. We reviewed them together. There it was, clear as day. Tempest Vale prowling the property, trying doors, taking photos, perfect evidence. This is enough for serious charges, the officer said. She's not going out for a long time. After the police left, after Azalea put Clover back to bed and finally fell asleep, I sat in the kitchen with Sterling. We should have told you everything from the beginning, he said, his head in his hands, about how serious her obsession was. But we were so afraid we wouldn't find help. How long has she been doing this? Since Clover was born. Tempest. She can't have children. Fertility issues. It was part of what destroyed our marriage before we met Azalea. When Azalea got pregnant, Tempest broke. She started stalking us, sending letters saying the baby was really hers, that Sterling was really still her husband. We thought the restraining order would stop her. Obviously, we were wrong. What happens now? Our lawyer says with the evidence and the charges, she'll probably go to prison for a year, maybe more. And after that, there will be monitoring, tighter restrictions. Maybe we can finally live in peace. I went home that night with a check for $3,000. Bonus, Sterling had said, for everything you went through. But I didn't go back. Not for the money. The money was tempting. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw a Tempest silhouette in that window. I heard her banging on the door, her voice saying, that should be my daughter. The Holloways sent me messages for weeks, asking me to reconsider, offering more money, promising additional security. But some things aren't worth any amount of money. And knowing that that woman, even behind bars, still thought of Clover as hers, still planned to get her back, eventually. That was something I could never forget. Last night, I got a message from Azalea. Tempest was sentenced to 3 years. We wanted you to know, and thank you. You saved our daughter. 3 years. In 3 years, Clover will be 7. She'll still be a child. She'll still be vulnerable. and Tempest will be out. Still thinking Clover is hers. Still planning, still waiting. I'm 25 years old, and I can no longer sleep with the curtains open. Never again. Because I know what it means when someone watches you from the darkness, when their eyes pierce you night after night, when their obsession seeps through the glass like an invisible poison that contaminates every corner of your life until you can't breathe without feeling like someone is counting every breath you take. I got the job caring for Clover Holloway in October, when the leaves in Greenwich, Connecticut were already tinged with rusty orange and the air smelled of damp earth and decay. The house was one of those colonial mansions that make you feel poor just by looking at it. Immaculate red brick, white-framed windows, a front lawn so perfect it looked painted. The kind of place where people have security systems that cost more than my college tuition. Sterling and Azalea Holloway interviewed me in their kitchen, which was so large that my voice echoed when I spoke. Sterling had that prematurely gray hair that some men have, the kind that makes them look distinguished rather than old, and Azalea was all perfect skin and designer clothes that had probably never seen the inside of a regular laundry. They were corporate lawyers, they told me, and they needed help 5 nights a week, $30 an hour, cash. I should have wondered why they were paying so much. I should have noticed how Azalea kept twisting her napkin under the table, how Sterling couldn't stop looking toward the window facing the house next door. "There's just one thing," Sterling said, leaning forward. His eyes were ice blue, the kind that probably intimidated witnesses in court. "The neighbor, Tempest. If you see her, if she tries to talk to you, don't get involved." The name caught my attention. Tempest. How appropriate. "Tempest," I repeated. "Tempest Vale. She lives there." Azalea nodded toward the window, where I could see another Tudor mansion through a wall of perfectly manicured bushes. She has problems." "What kind of problems?" They exchanged that look married couples give each other, that silent communication that says more than words ever could. "Just stay away from her," Sterling finally said. "That's all." I should have pressed. I should have demanded details. But I needed the money with a desperation that hurt physically, and $30 an hour bought a lot of relief from the student loans that were chasing me like sharks. "Okay," I said. "No problem." My first night was a Monday. The Holloways left at 6 in the evening, their twin Mercedes disappearing down the tree-lined street. And I was left with Clover, who was 4 years old and had hazel eyes. She was a quiet child, the kind that makes you wonder if they might be processing too much for their age. We had organic macaroni and cheese for dinner that tasted like expensive cardboard, played with her American girls, and I gave her a bath that smelled of lavender and vanilla. By 8 o'clock, she was asleep, her little chest rising and falling in that steady rhythm children have when they are truly deeply asleep. I closed her door until it was ajar. She had asked me to leave it that way, and went down to the living room. The house was too quiet, not the comfortable silence of being alone, but the kind of silence that feels full, as if it were holding something back. The ceilings were so high that shadows gathered in the upper corners, and every creak of the hardwood floor made me jump. I sat down on the leather sofa that probably cost more than my car, opened my laptop, and tried to concentrate on my master's thesis. But I kept looking up, looking toward the windows facing the front. And that's when I saw her for the first time. It was 9 o'clock at night, maybe 10 past 9. I looked up from my screen, stretching, and my gaze drifted to the window. The house next door was fully lit, every window glowing like a stage. And in the second-floor window, directly across from where I was sitting, was a woman. She wasn't moving. She wasn't doing anything. She was just there, her hands pressed against the glass, her face a pale smudge in the light, looking at me. My skin immediately bristled, that primitive tingling that comes from somewhere deep in your reptilian brain, the part that knows how to recognize predators. I quickly looked away, pretending I hadn't seen her, turning my eyes back to my laptop even though the words on the screen were now just meaningless smudges. I counted to 30. Then I looked back. She was still there, same position, hands against the glass, watching. A knot formed in my stomach, tight and sickening. I closed my laptop, got up, walked to the window. If I was going to close the curtains, I was going to do it with purpose, not as if I were running away. Our eyes met across the distance. Even from there, it must have been about 100 feet, I could see her eyes, clear, fixed, hungry. I pulled the curtain so hard I almost ripped the rod off. When Sterling and Azalea came back at 11, I didn't say anything. What was I going to say? Hey, your neighbor was staring at me. It sounded paranoid, ridiculous. People look out their windows all the time. But as I drove home through the dark streets of Greenwich, I kept seeing those eyes in my mind, and the way she had been so still, like a statue, as if she had been waiting for me to look at her. The second night was exactly the same. Clover was an angel, the routine as smooth as butter. But as 9 o'clock approached, my whole body tensed, every muscle bracing for what I knew was coming. I didn't want to look, but I had to. There she was, same window, same position. As if she hadn't moved in 24 hours. This time, I could see her better. Ash blonde hair to her shoulders, thin face, in her 50s. She was wearing something dark, maybe a sweater or a robe, and those eyes. God, those eyes. I closed the curtains without waiting. That night, when the Holloways returned, Azalea asked me if everything had been all right. Perfect. I lied, and the weight of that lie settled on my chest like a stone. On the third night, everything changed. I was in the kitchen making Clover her bedtime snack, apples with peanut butter, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I thought it might be the Holloways from work. Hello? Silence, but not the silence of a deadline, the silence of someone holding their breath on the other end. I could hear her breathing, slow, deliberate. Hello? I repeated, my voice rising an octave. I know what you do to her. The voice was female, husky, as if she had smoked 2 packs a day for decades, and there was something in her tone, something flat and dead, that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Excuse me. My fingers tightened around the phone. Who is this? I know what you do to my baby. My heart began to pound so hard I could feel it in my throat. I think you have the wrong number. Clover. The way she said her name, like a caress, like a possession. My sweet little Clover, I know you have her. I know you're in my house. This isn't your... The line went dead. I stood there in the kitchen, under those bright white LED lights that suddenly seemed too bright, as if I were under an interrogation spotlight. My hand was shaking as I put the phone down. I went upstairs, my feet silent on the expensive carpet, and checked the baby monitor in Clover's room. She was asleep, her little mouth slightly open, completely oblivious. I dialed Azalea with fingers that barely worked. Indigo. What happened? The words came out in a rush. The call, the voice, the exact words. I heard Azalea inhale sharply, that sound like air escaping from a flat tire. It was Tempest, she said, and her voice had an edge of panic that hadn't been there before. Shit. Sterling, it's Tempest. She called Indigo. Her voice drifted away, as if she were talking to someone else. Who is she? I demanded. Why does she have my number? Why would she call saying Clover is hers? She's Sterling's ex-wife from a long time ago. They've been divorced for 10 years, but she... God, Indigo, she thinks Clover is her daughter, that she and Sterling are still together, that I don't know, an intruder. We have a restraining order, but how did she get my number? I don't know, but I'm calling our lawyer right now and the police. Can you stay there until we get there? We're leaving now. How long? 20 minutes. Less. Just check all the locks and stay with Clover. I hung up and stood there, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I ran downstairs, checking every door, every window, everything locked, everything secure. Then I looked up at the front window. The curtains were drawn, But even through the heavy fabric, I could see light shining from the edges, and a shadow, a thin, feminine shadow moving just behind the glass. She was still there, watching the house even now, waiting. Sterling and Azalea arrived in 17 minutes. I counted them, every second dragging like an hour. They had called the police from the car, and 2 officers arrived 5 minutes after them. "We're sorry," Azalea kept saying, her eyes red, her perfect makeup now smudged at the corners. "We're so sorry. We thought it was over. We thought he had finally stopped doing this." "Has he done this before?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer from the way they wouldn't look me in the eye. Sterling ran a hand through his hair, making it stand up at odd angles. "With the last 2 nannies. That's why they quit. Of course they did." "Look," Sterling said after the police left, after they had apparently gone to Tempest House to remind her of the restraining order. "If you want to quit, we'll completely understand, but we'll pay you double, $60 an hour, and we'll install more security cameras, as many as you want. And you can call us, or the police, at any second if something feels wrong." $60 an hour. My student loans sang in my head like sirens. "I'm staying," I said, and a small part of me screamed that I was an idiot. The next few days passed without incident. No calls, no sightings of Tempest at his window. The new blackout curtains the Holloways installed meant I couldn't see outside, and nothing could see inside. I began to relax, to think that maybe the police warning had worked. On Sunday night, my 5th night, I took the trash out the back door. The October air was cold, smelling of rotten leaves and damp earth. I walked across the yard to the trash cans, tossed the bag, turned to go back inside. And I saw it. A white envelope tucked under the doormat at the back door, clean, unmarked. My hands were shaking when I picked it up. For a moment, I considered not opening it, throwing it away, pretending I had never seen it. But I already knew. I already knew what it was. I opened it. The writing inside was neat, feminine, with those round letters they teach you in elementary school. "She's not yours. She's not hers. She's mine. She's always been mine. You made a mistake by keeping her. You made a mistake by staying." The envelope fell from my fingers, floating to the concrete like a feather. I took out my phone and snapped a photo of the note with hands shaking so hard that the first photo came out blurry. I went back inside, locked the door, put the chain on, and checked 3 times to make sure it was secure. I dialed Azalea. "Go back inside and stay there," she told me immediately. "Don't come out for any reason." "I'm already inside." "Did you touch the note?" "Yes, but it doesn't matter. We're on our way. 5 minutes." I went up to Clover's room, sat on the floor next to her bed, watching her sleep. Her face looked so peaceful, so innocent. She had no idea that a strange woman considered her her daughter. She had no idea of the danger lurking on the other side of the walls. That night, after the police came and left with the note in an evidence bag, after Sterling changed all the security codes on all the doors, I sat in the living room with them and finally demanded the whole truth. "Tempest and I were married for 5 years, Sterling said, staring at his hands. "We lived in this house. She decorated it, chose every piece of furniture, every curtain. But she couldn't have children. Fertility issues. We tried everything. And eventually that tore us apart. We divorced. I kept the house. Then you met Azalea," I said. "Then I met Azalea, and we fell in love. And when she got pregnant with Clover..." He paused, his jaw tightening. "Tempest found out. I don't know how. Maybe she saw us. The point is, when Clover was born, Tempest started coming here, standing in the yard, looking through the windows, calling in the middle of the night saying the baby was hers, that I was still her husband, that Azalea was an imposter who had stolen her life. We got the restraining order when Clover was 6 months old," Azalea added, her voice barely audible, "because we found her in the baby's room, in the middle of the night, holding Clover, just rocking her, singing to her. She'd gotten in with her old key that she somehow still had. My stomach twisted. And you never thought about moving? We considered it, Sterling said. But she would find us. She always finds us. At least here we know the territory. We know her patterns. I drove home that night on streets that seemed darker than usual, every shadow holding a threat. I checked my rearview mirror every 30 seconds. When I got to my apartment, I checked every corner before I could relax. Should I quit? It was the sensible thing to do, but $1,200 a week. In a month, I could breathe financially. In 2 months, I could start to see the light. And Clover. Sweet Clover, who didn't deserve any part of this madness. I stayed, but I bought my own security cameras. Small, wireless, the kind that connect to your phone. I installed them discreetly. One at the back door, one at the front. On Monday night, my 6th night, I put Clover to bed at 8 as usual. I went downstairs, sat on the couch, opened my laptop. At 9:14 p.m., my phone vibrated. Motion alert from the back camera. My blood turned to ice. I opened the app, my fingers clumsy on the screen. The recording showed a figure moving across the backyard. Thin, female, moving purposefully toward the back door. Tempest. I watched her approach on the small screen of my phone. My breath caught in my throat. She tried the knob, locked. She moved to the window next to the door, pressing her face against the glass, her hands cupping her eyes to block the reflection. Then she pulled something out of her pocket, her phone, and she started taking pictures of the door, of the windows, of the house, documenting. Planning. I dialed 911 with fingers shaking so hard I hit the wrong numbers twice. 911, what is your emergency? There's someone on the property. I climbed the stairs as I spoke, taking the steps 2 at a time. The owner's ex-wife, Tempest Vale. She has a restraining order. She's here now, in the yard. What is your address? I recited it as I entered Clover's room, closing the door quietly behind me. Clover was still asleep, her chest rising and falling in that perfect rhythm. Is she inside the house? No, she's outside, but she's trying the doors, and I looked at my phone screen, switching to the camera app. My heart stopped. Tempest had disappeared from the rear camera's frame. Ma'am. I switched to the front camera. Nothing. She was nowhere to be found. I can't see her, I whispered. She was there, and now she's gone. The officers are 3 minutes away. Are you safe right now? I'm in the girls' room with the door closed. Stay there. Don't open the door for anyone except the police. I sat on the floor next to Clover's bed, my back against the wall, my eyes fixed on the door. Every second was an eternity. I could hear my own breathing, rapid and shallow, filling the silence. Then I heard it. A creak. Downstairs. Unmistakable. The sound of weight on a floorboard that groaned. He was in. My body froze completely, every muscle locked. How? I had checked all the locks, all the windows. How had he gotten in? Another creak. Closer now, on the stairs. I grabbed the only thing in the room that could serve as a weapon, a ceramic lamp from Clover's nightstand. I yanked it out of the socket, holding it by the cord, feeling its weight. The footsteps climbed the stairs, slow, methodical, as if in no hurry, as if it knew there was nowhere to go. They stopped just outside the door. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stared at the doorknob as if I could keep it closed by sheer force of will. It began to turn. Clover. Tempest's voice, muffled by the wooden door. Soft. Almost sing-song. Clover, sweetie, it's Mommy. I need you to open the door for Mommy. Clover stirred in her bed, her eyes opening, confused by sleep. Shh, I whispered, putting a finger to my lips, silently begging her not to make a sound. Clover, sweetheart, I know you're awake. I can hear you moving. Just open the door. I just want to see you. I just want to give you a goodnight kiss like I used to. It's not your mommy, I shouted, my voice coming out louder than I expected, fueled by terror and adrenaline. The police are on their way. Leave now. Silence. Then, you shouldn't be here. Tempest's voice changed, losing all its false sweetness, becoming hard and sharp. This is my house. I lived here for 5 years. I chose the wallpaper in that room. I planted the rose bushes in the garden. Sterling promised me we would have children in this house. And there she is, my daughter, sleeping in my room, and you, a stranger, dare to tell me I can't come in. She's not your daughter. She is. The scream was so loud, so sudden, that Clover began to cry. Sterling owes me. He owes me a baby. He took away my ability to have children and then replaced me with that young bitch and took my baby away from me. And I'm going to get her back. You hear me? I'm going to get back what's mine. A blow against the door, so hard that the whole wall shook. Clover screamed. "It's okay, honey," I whispered, but my own voice was breaking. "It's okay, the police are coming." Another bang. The wood near the lock began to splinter. I squeezed the lamp, standing up, placing myself between the door and Clover's bed. If he came in, he'd have to get past me first. Another bang. The splinter grew larger. I could see light from the hallway seeping in. Where were they? Where were the police? "Open this door." Tempest was no longer trying to sound rational. His voice was pure rage, pure panic, pure obsession. "Open this door, or I'll break it down." Then, cutting through the terror like a silver knife, sirens. The banging stopped. "No," Tempest muttered from the other side. No, I need more time. I just need one more minute." His footsteps raced down the stairs, fast, frantic. I heard the front door open. Voices shouting, "Police! Hands up! Hands up now!" Screams, struggling. Something broke, maybe a vase, maybe a table. I stood there, still holding that stupid lamp, my whole body shaking so violently that my teeth were chattering. Clover was crying on my leg, her little hand clutching my pants. "It's okay," I kept saying, even though nothing was okay. "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." Footsteps coming up the stairs again, fast, multiple pairs. "Miss Caldwell," a male voice, official, confident. "This is Officer Ramirez. Can you open the door? We have it. It's safe." Safe? What did safe mean? How could I be sure it was really the police and not her faking voices? "How do I know it's you?" My voice came out like a croak. "Look through the peephole. You can see my uniform, my badge." I approached the door, my legs barely functioning, and looked through the small glass eye. 2 officers. Real uniforms, real badges. I opened the door. Officer Ramirez was young, maybe 30, with kind brown eyes that crinkled with concern when he saw me. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head, unable to form words. "We have her in custody. She forced a basement window. Violation of restraining order, trespassing, attempted kidnapping. She's not coming back." Sterling and Azalea arrived while the officers were still there, taking pictures of the damaged door, of the basement window Tempest had broken to get in. Azalea snatched Clover from my arms, checking her all over, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. My baby, oh God, my baby." "I'm okay, Mommy," Clover kept saying, confused by all the commotion. "Indigo kept me safe." I gave my statement to the officers. I showed them the camera footage, Tempest entering the yard, testing the doors, all documented, perfect evidence. "With this and the charges, he's going to prison for a long time," Officer Ramirez said. "And when he gets out, there will be severe restrictions." Sterling gave me a check. $3,000. "For everything," he said. "For being brave, for protecting our daughter." I took the check. I nodded. I said thank you, but I didn't go back. I couldn't. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, standing at that window, watching me, waiting for me, planning, and I heard her voice through that door. "I'm going to take back what's mine." The Holloways sent me messages for weeks. More money, more security. Please reconsider. I blocked their numbers. Last night, 3 months later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Tempest was sentenced to 3 years. We thought you'd want to know, and thank you. You saved our daughter. Azalea." 3 years. I delete the message without replying, because 3 years means that in 3 years she's out. And Clover will be 7. Still a child, still vulnerable, and Tempest will come out, still believing Clover is hers, still planning to take back what she thinks was stolen from her. Last night, I had a nightmare. I was in that house again, in that room, with that door splintering under her blows. But this time, the door opened, and she came in, and her hands reached for Clover. And I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do anything except watch. I woke up sweating, my heart racing. My sheets tangled around my legs like grabbing hands. I checked all my locks, twice, 3 times. Because now I know the truth I will never forget. Monsters are real. They don't have fangs or claws. They have hungry eyes and delusional beliefs and obsessions that burn so hot they consume everything around them. And sometimes, monsters stare at you from windows across the street.